I was starting to get dressed to leave, and I had said something to the effect that I hoped he had had a wonderful Christmas, and I wished him all the best for the new year. And at that, I looked at him, and there were tears running down his face. And it turns out that he had just lost his mother a few months ago, his father a couple of years ago, and his only two siblings were, 3,000 or 6,000 miles away, and there was just no way that, for him to be able to be together with any family at Christmas time. And it was his first Christmas he had ever spent all alone. And
was he married? Did he have children?
Divorced.
Divorced.
And it just, those words just triggered something in him, and all the pain and the loneliness and the heartache and the fact that he missed his parents. The man was about 40 years old, and all the pain that he had been holding inside just started pouring out. And I couldn't leave him like that. It's I'm human, and he's human, and people shouldn't treat each other like that and just, it's business, I gotta go now, bye. I couldn't do that. It's just not in my nature. And so I stayed, and he, I had him lying down with his head in my lap, and I was just sort of stroking his hair and just encouraging him to let it out. And I actually had turned down, canceled the rest of my work for the rest of the night, because it was obvious I had somebody here who needed me right now. And he kept telling me that he couldn't afford to keep me all night. And I said, we'll worry about that later. Right now you need me. And finally, when, things were fine, and he would, it was over, and we were he's in a good mood, and, it was several hours later. And again, he's saying, look, I kept telling you to leave because I really don't have that much money. And I kind of, this is way more than what I budgeted for. And I told him to just, do whatever you can, and, I understand you have your budget, you have your limits, and just do whatever you think you can and whatever you think is fair. And it was less than I would have normally made for that many hours, but I don't feel bad about that. I feel good about that, because it was more important to take care of him in an hour of need.
This brings up a very good point, and that is, and you've told me this before in our previous interview, about the type of relationship you develop with your clients. You get very involved in their minds and their hearts and their lives. You develop real caring friendships with them.
Yes, I have several clients I see on quite a regular basis. There's one young man who I see quite regularly. He's a normal-looking guy, just normal guy you see on the street. Not especially bad-looking, not especially good-looking, just your average Joe. And I see him quite regularly. And he once confessed to me that I was the only person who holds him. And I was very touched by that. And it made me reflect on what a crazy world we live in, whereas touch is such a basic human need. And yet I'm the only person who holds him. I found that really, it struck a nerve. I also felt quite flattered in a way that I'm the one who was chosen. And that made me feel special, because he's a really, really great guy. He's smart and intelligent and funny, and the only thing, the reason which I could imagine that is keeping him single is the fact that he's shy.
I've often heard that professional escorts and other women in the sex trade actually save more marriages than they would ever destroy. And I'd like to get your thoughts on it. And these will have to be our final thoughts for the day. We're coming to the end of Frank Talks. So what's your position on sex workers as marriage counselors?
I think I'll tell you a story of another client. This gentleman, I've only seen him a couple of times. The first time we got together, after it was over and we're just lying there, I pulled out a static duster. And I started just gently brushing his body with it. And, after orgasm, the whole body becomes very sensitive. All the nerves are like electric. And he obviously very much enjoyed it. It was very relaxing and just felt good. And maybe 2 months later, I get a phone call from him, and he says, I have to see you again. And it's like, have to? He says, I'll explain when I see you. And when we got together, he explained that he had used my trick on his wife, and it put that spark back into, I think it was a 15-year marriage. That it had gone boring, their sex life. And that my little trick had put a spark back into their sex life. And what he wanted to do was pick my brain for more simple ideas, because if he had ever pulled out something that you would buy in a sex shop, she would have been intimidated and scared off by it. But the fact that I pulled out a household item just made it all that much more fun, and, it very much added to his home life. And so he picked my